So with that said, we go into the final step, which is the post-merger integration process. This is just an overview of what goes into it. Now, the important thing to note is that you've spent a lot of money on the acquisition, and you need to have that smooth post-merger integration process to maximize the value of your investment, to maximize the value of this combined entity and get the ROI quicker. The quicker you get to the ROI, the best for you. And these steps 1 to 7 are the most common typical steps that you want to maybe look into when it comes to post-merger integration and the monitoring process, starting with what we call integration execution. So what this is implementing that integration plan which you developed during the planning phase. So if you remember, one of the steps is the integration plan. This is what you've defined before the post-merger integration synergies are being established, and where you look at what you need to do in order to be successful. This, of course, means how will I be combining my operations, my processes? How will I be consolidating systems or technologies? And this could also be done on a phased approach. It could also be that you decide, I'm not going to integrate the two entities. I'm going to work separate. So there's different elements that you may want to consider. And of course, one part of it is the HR structures, aligning the organizational structures and reporting lines becomes an important part of this. The second part is change management, or what we call employee integration and communication. So communicating effectively what these changes mean for the employees, and provide support during that transition period, integrating employee benefits, policies, procedures, everything that employee need to be aware of. This is the time where you communicate these changes, and of course, address any concerns or resistance among your employees. Then you go into customer and supplier integration, may apply, may not apply, depending on the nature of the transaction. But this is where you look at the customer databases and you integrate them together, like CRM, for example, harmonize supplier contracts and relationships, ensuring continuity of the service and supply chain operations. This is all going under the customer and supplier integration part. Then you have the financial integration. So like we have HR integration, you also need to look at financial integration. So consolidating financial reporting and accounting systems, align budgeting and forecasting and financial planning processes. Culture integrations is step number 5. We talked about it. Very important. You need to establish common values and understand the behaviors across the merged organization and address any kind of cultural differences before it have an impact on your employees. And finally, performance monitoring and adjustments. So very important that you track the success of this merger process. And you can look at certain key KPIs, key performance indicators, which assess the success of integration efforts. Have I achieved the targets that I wanted to achieve with this merger? Identifying areas of improvement. If your targets are not met, how can you address this and quickly do the adjustments to optimize that performance? And of course, look at any kind of unforeseen challenges or issues that you might have overlooked in the planning phase. This would be the right time for you to address this. And then at the end, of course, synergy realization, identifying and capturing synergies that result from the merger or the acquisition, and of course, implementing initiatives to maximize the cost savings and revenue growth over time. So with that said, where we come in is really steps 1 and 6, I would say. So integration execution is very important, how we support the integration of both entities post the merger, and of course, monitoring the progress. We have a lot of analytics and KPIs within the tool that allows you to monitor the progress that you've done and making sure that you're achieving the targets that you've set. So this is where we come in. Now, if I were to look at this, I promise is the last slide before I go into the demo, but it's important to set the stage to explain what is available today for you if you have Nakisa HR Suite. If I look at the integration execution process, which is step 1, and the monitoring, which is step 6 from the previous slide, we can achieve this in Nakisa HR Suite in 3 steps. Step number 1 is data collection. Not a simple process, because if you talk to organizations, they say, well, I don't have all of the data of the acquired company. So which means that you may have to start slow or take a phased approach with whatever you have. Maybe you don't have all entities, you start with one entity. So there's different aspects you may want to consider, or maybe it's the case again that these structures may remain separate, but you still have to have a way of understanding what these structures look like and what the data looks like. Data is very important in this whole process. So data collection means, what are the relevant data that I need to be able to inform my integration and the org merger decisions? Data can be your organizational structures, maybe it's department structures, company structures, position structures, or maybe even the company doesn't have an ERP system and they just have employees reporting to managers that they maintain an Excel file. Everything is possible, but the idea is to look at all of the relevant data points which are critical for you to inform a successful integration. And this typically involves, I try to write it here, so structures, departments, positions, employees, talent data, very important, because as part of this process, you don't want to lose track of your top talent within the organization, so you want to track that. Financial information, if you want to look at costs of the organization, if you merge two entities, what is the implications on costs, becomes very important. Formal and informal org relationships also are key and very important to understand. And of course, key positions, key talent, as I mentioned before, a very important part of the data collection. Then, so maybe I'll take a pause and see if there are any questions so far. I'll try to also monitor the chat as we go. Okay, so no questions, so I'll just carry on. Once you've defined what are the data elements that you need to bring into your template, then you need to bring this data into your org merger template. And the second step would be then to upload this template into Nakisa HR Suite. Once you've uploaded the template into Nakisa HR Suite, that takes you to step number 2, which is the data validation, data visualization, apologies, and analysis. Data validation is also important, and we do part of that. And I will talk about it in my demo, but data visualization and analysis. So now that I've imported the data, let's have a look at my acquired company data structure. Let me look at the dashboards. Let me look at the in-chart analytics. What is the depth of this organization? How many layers does it have? Do we have areas where the span of control is not aligned with our guiding principles and best practices that we've established as a company? So having these analytics become very important to track. And of course, one of the most important thing is, let's look at the organization side by side and to understand what I need to do in terms of bringing both entity and merging both entities together. So once you've done that, comes the last step, which is the probably the one where you need to be. There's many ways of doing it, and it depends on the exact scenario. It depends on the function that you're merging. But this is really the data normalization, or what I call the mapping of the acquired company roles to the acquiring company roles. So you may have position titles that are mismatched. Maybe you have a CFO, as I will show you in the demo, a Chief Financial Officer, but in your acquiring company, you have a VP of Finance. So how do you bring these two entities together? What are the decisions that you need to take to normalize these positions, jobs, departments, to all have a common language that is aligned with your best practices? And of course, it also involves doing changes to the entire organizational structure. It's not just merging things together. I may be creating new positions. I may be looking at certain redundancies. Maybe some of the positions I'll have to take out. So all of these decisions, you need Nakisa HR Suite to implement them and to execute them and see the impact of the changes as you are doing it. One important factor is developing a key position retention list. Very important. Same thing for determining the critical retention candidates, and you can do that by reviewing with the key HR stakeholders. And of course, on the flip side, also look at the redundant positions that you may want to reduce within the organization. Collaboration is very important. It's not a process where one person will go in and do all of that. You will have the specialists for the data integration that can use the tool, but they can also collaborate with HR, even managers if required. And once you've done Once you have a scenario that you agreed on, comes the last step of the process, which is saying, okay, now this is approved. Let's write it back into the ERP. Now, having a tool that can write back these changes would be great benefit because it will save you time and effort and money. So that's where Nakisa HR Suite can provide this ROI for you. And then, as I mentioned, for step number 6, the monitoring the progress over time. Once you've integrated the data into your main HR core system, then your org charts will always show both entities integrated together, so you can monitor over time KPIs, whether it's related to cost of the entities, whether you want to bring in revenue information in, and analyze it in our application and look at it. So all of this becomes then doable through the advanced reporting and analytics that Nakisa HR Suite offers.